Uh, we will go ahead and get started here. Welcome to so we are now at clinic number 4, so the run clinic. So I'll just quickly go over the, kind of introduction information in case there's anybody who, is here for the first time or watching one of these clinics for the first time. So my name is Gillian. I am one of the coaches of the First Timers Clinic. I do all of the virtual clinics. So you can always reach out to me via our Facebook group, the First Timers Facebook group, or at my own email address, which is Gillian, so Gillian at live, Live, grit, grit.com. I appreciate those who are here in real time. So I'm going to lean on you all to ask all the questions that I forget for your fellow athletes who are going to be watching this on video. So as always, the goal here is to answer your questions. Just over the years, I hope to, we've kind of learned what the questions are that first timers have. So that's how we've compiled these and changed these clinics over the 7 or 8 years. But please yell out your questions, type them in the chat. The run is usually the shortest, easiest of the clinics because there's not a lot that I'm going to tell you that you probably don't already know. The next clinic is going to be the transition clinic, and that's usually the one that most people have been waiting for, to learn about those transitions and how they go, what to think about, what to do, and what to expect. Little caveat, having a little internet issue, so if I get delayed or kind of spotty, just type in the chat that you can't hear me or something like that. I'm also out of town and there's a major road behind me, so hopefully we don't have too many buses driving by, so I apologize for any background noise. But with that, let's get this kicked off. So swim, bike, run, just to recap, that is the order that you are going to be doing the different sports for the triathlon. And so we've gone through the swim, we've gone through the bike, and now we are going through the run. And the only other sport, the fourth sport of triathlons, transitions. That's what we'll talk about next in a couple of weeks. So as far as distances, if you are doing Saturday's race, distances in the course, you have a 2.5 kilometer run. So that's about 1.5 miles. The run course here is this blue line. So that's south on the lakefront path. So you're going from basically Foster Beach down to Montrose. You turn around and you head back north. Again, if this is your first clinic, definitely go back and watch the other ones. But this orange box right here, that's the transition. So you're going to come into the bike on the northwest side, so up in the corner, and then you're going to run out of transition on the southeast side. So that's for Saturday's super sprint race. Hold on a second, let me go back. So real quick, I'm going to show you, much like I did for the bike, a very short video that was done years ago for the Chicago Triathlon, but I think this is a good overview. So, and then we'll talk about it. So let me know if you can't hear it.
Trans-American Triathlon, the run course. The run course in Chicago is truly one of a kind, spanning vast stretches of Chicago's magnificent lakefront through its world-famous parks with breathtaking views around every corner. Beautiful and exciting from the very start.
The run's awesome. You head out of transition, you're running south, hundreds of spectators. So you've got all the spectators from the swim course are spectating the run as well.
It feels great because it's so beautiful, and it's not one of those like concrete, very boring path runs. It's so gorgeous. You literally forget that you're in a race.
The 5K sprint distance competitors will cross Walden Drive, then turn around and head back north. Olympic distance racers cover 10K, heading further south past McCormick Place before making their turnaround. Spectacular views throughout the race, passing iconic Chicago landmarks one after another.
You come down through the museum campus area, you're going through Grant Park, past Buckingham Fountain, all these landmarks. You go around the Shedd Aquarium, Soldier Field, you know, if you're doing the Olympic distance, past McCormick Place, all these, you know, staples to Chicago. But the best part is actually when you're finishing, when you're coming back, you come around the Shedd Aquarium and the skyline just opens up to you. And that just, there's something about that that just, you know, gives you little chills when you look up and you're like, wow, this is truly, truly a unique race.
At that point, everyone is heading westward, then under Lakeshore Drive before making one final turn at Columbus Drive for one of the most exciting finishes in all of amateur sport.
You know, that's where the adrenaline kicks in, and if you thought you didn't have anything, you all of a sudden found something that you didn't think you had to get to the finish.
When I spin around that corner and on that final stretch, I'm like in a full sprint. It's amazing.
Come on, Louie!
When you get up to the finish line, you're coming down that chute, he's yelling your name.
Great race, great job, great finish.
And everybody screams for you.
Nice job! Woo!
The race is over, but the party has just begun. Live music, cold drinks, so much food, and an incredible feeling of accomplishment and camaraderie shared by all.
Oh, it's awesome. It's great energy. Everyone's got all their endorphins released. It's awesome to be around all these motivated people.
You can relax. Finally, it's over. It's done. Let's do it again.
All right. So hopefully that gets you a little excited. But that was, yeah, you could see the course during that video. So obviously it's sprint, you're doing a 5K, international distance, you're doing a 10K. So about 3.1 miles versus, and then 6.2 miles. So here is the course again. So as we've talked about it, the transition is up here in the big orange blob here. You're going to come in. So the red lines are the bike. So like we talked about in the last clinic, you're going to come in on the northwest side. And then to go out for the run, you're going to go out on the south west-ish side. And we talked about this last time, but there's going to be big arches that will say, you know, bike in, run out. So you'll know exactly where to go. If you're doing the sprint distance, that turnaround is just south of Soldier Field at Waldron Drive. So if you want to do a dry run of the run course, you can, that's where you would turn around and then go up to Columbus, back up to Columbus Drive. If you're doing the international, you're going to go all the way down to, and this gets cut off a little bit, sorry, 31st Street Beach, basically, and turn around there. For the sprint, there is an aid station, so like water and such, right when you're coming out of transition. And then there's one at the turnaround. And depending on kind of the heat and stuff, they may, sometimes if it's a hotter year, they'll bring out the fire trucks and have water and sprinklers like along the course cooling you down. And then for the international, you'll actually have, so you'll have the aid station at Waldron, and then you'll also have it at 31st Street, and then you'll have it again back at Waldron. So there'll be 3 aid stations for you. And we'll talk a little bit about nutrition and such in a minute here. But that's the course, pretty straightforward. It ends on Columbus Drive. Though we'll talk more about this. Obviously, you can see where the F for finish and the transition are not in the same area. So that is walkable if you want to, and lots of people do. Or they're going to have trolleys that will take you from the Finish Line Festival back up to the transition area. A question that was just asked, great question. Is the run closed off to only triathletes? No, the lakefront path is open, and they can't close it totally off. But what I think people, either come up on it and are like, oh, I didn't know this was happening, I'm going to go the other way, or very few people aren't in the triathlon who choose to be amongst that many people running on the lakefront. But no, it is not. You're not going to, they will keep like bikers, from, have them not going down the lakefront path, but you will see the stray, kind of weekend runner out there. But yes, so that's that. Any questions on course or distance? Pop them in there. But we will move on to kind of gear. So clothing and accessories. So you've seen this before if you've seen the other clinics, but running, it's fairly straightforward. So you need some kind of shoes. As I say that, I realize every year somebody asks if barefoot running is allowed, and I always get the answer to that. But so if that is a question for you, email me and we can find that answer. But most people are going to wear some kind of running shoe. So you will either have worn that shoe on the bike if you're not clipping in, or you're going to take off your bike shoes and put on your running shoes. And then we have sunglasses. Sunglasses, hat, something if it's a sunny day is something you might want. And then the race belt. So this is something we've talked about. So it's this belt, and it's something you can put your number on, because for triathlons, you only need to wear that front number, and it does have to be on the front for the run. For the swim, you aren't going to have any numbers on you. It's going to be based on the color, your cap color, and then you are going to have a timing chip that you wear throughout the whole race. And then on the bike, you will have put a number on your helmet and a couple of numbers on your bike that they lay out very clearly in the packet where to put them. Or feel free, there's going to be a lot of us down at the expo to help, or even race morning, though you'll need to have your numbers on your bike before you get into transition. But they have instructions for that. But you only need the front number for the run. So some people do wear it on the bike and safety pin it to their shirt. I guess, the one thing to think about is just it kind of blowing in the wind. And if you're wearing that shirt, for the swim, so if you're wearing a triathlon, you don't want to wear that number while you're swimming necessarily. So that's why a lot of people use this race belt. So they, I put it in my shoe so I don't forget it. And it's the first thing I put on after I get off the bike. A lot of them also have place for you to put nutrition. So these are like the goos we've talked about before. So that's one thing. And talking on nutrition, hydration vests and hydration belts are totally allowed. You can wear a Camelback, totally allowed. You can wear it on the bike. That's allowed. So you can do that for sure. And then, so let me go back to, so we have, so the run, the things that are different from, obviously you're going to be wearing some kind of clothing. So whether that's a triathlon suit or whatever short top you're going for. So you will have had that from the beginning. You may have put on socks for the bike that you are then going to put into your running shoes. Or you might just, if you didn't wear socks on the bike, putting those on when you go out for the run. A couple other random things, that you can think about is some kind of sports watch to keep, the time, pace, things like that. But other than that, that's really the only gear for the run. Body Glide, we haven't talked a lot about Body Glide. So it's an anti-chafing thing. If you do, run, you've probably heard of this. So anything, basically if you go out for a long run and there's anything, so whether it's where your sports bra hits or where your shorts hit, whatever it is, Body Glide helps with the chafing. The other really good use of Body Glide is that you can use it on like your ankles or your wrists to help get a wetsuit on. That's one thing. Or the back of your neck if you're wearing a wetsuit. So if you've tried one on thus far, inevitably, or you've seen in the back, there's Velcro that latches it together. At some point in time, you're going to get that Velcro a little bit off and not know it. And you're going to come back from a swim and be like, wow, why does my neck hurt? And it's because that's been rubbing on your neck. So Body Glide's great to put on your neck as well. But really, we thought the slide was a little boring to just say you need shoes. So just a couple other things to think about. But while we're talking about shoes, shoes are really important. And so I would highly recommend, if you're in the market for a new pair of shoes, of going to a running, if you don't have a pair that you've worn, that you love this brand and this style, and they're just your go-to shoe, going to one of the running stores around is a great thing to do, to have them look at, how you run and finding the right shoe that fits for you. Much like biking and what I talked about last time, that biking should not be uncomfortable because of the position you're in. Biking might be uncomfortable because you're pushing yourself, you're building up your endurance, you're riding into headwind. That might make you uncomfortable, but you should not be in pain when you're riding a bike, much like you should not be in pain from your shoes and such when you're running. So just don't be like, this is just part of running. Yes, running is hard and it hurts sometimes, but not because it shouldn't hurt because of your shoes. Nutrition and hydration. So there are multiple points in the triathlon that you're going to want to really make sure you have your nutrition and hydration down. First one being that morning of, before you get into the water. What is it that you are going to take with you from transition down to the start? And for that hour plus that you're waiting, what is it that you're going to be consuming? And that's certainly going to be some kind of hydration. So water, electrolytes. And again, there are so many different kinds out there that you can try. The biggest thing is to try them before race day. And then some kind of nutrition, just having water and electrolytes is not going to be enough for the distance and the time that you're going to be from start to finish here. So you're going to want to be consuming calories, and you never want to get in a deficit of the energy that you're taking in. So one, making sure, you're eating before you get into the water. You don't necessarily, if you're doing the international distance and you're leaving your house at 3:30 in the morning, you don't want to not have anything to eat at that 6:30 time or whatever, 7 that you're getting in the water. And the big thing is also, don't try to get fancy with it. I think obviously like the old, like carb up, like pasta dinner before, my personal biggest advice is whatever you train with, eat that on race day, even if it may not sound like the most, like I said, we had one of our coaches who, he was a big fan of Fruit Loops and a banana. And so that's what he even, on race day ate his Fruit Loops and banana before he got in the water. So that's your first time, the morning up. And then you have your first transition. So going from the swim to the bike, and making sure you have, water there. Again, water and nutrition. When are these points that it is going to be easy for you to take in hydration and take in nutrition? You certainly, being in transition, it's a lot easier to, eat a goo or a banana or whatever it is that you want at that time than it is on the bike. Obviously, it is possible and you should still be taking it in, but kind of finding those points that are easiest for you to do these things. And then what I said, last time on the bike clinic, the biggest problem I see or kind of, issue is for people who are newer to biking, cycling, who don't get comfortable with taking the water bottle out of the water bottle cage while you're riding with people around you. So really practicing that when you're out on your rides, of drinking out of a water bottle while you're riding, because that bike, it's going to be, that's the longest, it's going to be long, and you certainly don't want to get dehydrated on the bike. And then you come back and you have another transition, taking that opportunity to take in some nutrition and hydration. And then we get to the run, and the run, as we talked about, has the aid stations. They're Gatorade, they'll have water, and then Gatorade Endurance, which is like Gatorade's sports drink. Again, if it's worth trying the Gatorade Endurance beforehand, so you make sure you like it and it works for you. But just knowing that's what they have. And if that's not what you want to do, then you're going to have some kind of hydration belt or something like that. And as far as how much nutrition, I mean, I'll be transparent. I'm not a, performance coach, so I don't want to give recommendations as to how much nutrition you should be taking in. And there are ways to get very specific around these things. But big rule of thumb is I wouldn't go than 100 calories an hour. So like those goo packets, those tend to be like 100 calories of like minimum that's what you're taking in from a like energy standpoint. But really it's going to be you going out on some of these long runs, these long rides, these brick workouts, and trying what works for you. Things to like be mindful of. If you start getting like the choppy sweat, you're dehydrated. If you just kind of, if you're out on a run and you kind of hit that like, low earlier than you would expect, you might be low on energy and nutrition. So just, kind of starting to think about this now, making notes about like what you drank and how you felt by the end of the workout, and see if you can kind of figure out what kind of nutrition hydration works for you. So, so that is that. Gatorade endurance. So that's gear. Any questions on gear or anything, pop them in the chat. I will keep an eye out for that. So training, kind of 3 different ways we're training for the run, at this point. Big one is long runs, is building up that endurance for your long run. So, if we look at if I can get over to this thing, if we look at, so this is week 6, 7, 8 of the very basic training plan that we have on the first timers page. But you look at, so these long runs, we're going by minutes here versus mileage. But also, it's called the run. There is no need. And I don't know, a majority of people, are probably not running the whole thing. So though it's a run, you may find that what works best for you is some kind of, interval of run walk, or even, a walk, whatever it is. At this point, your goal is to get to the end, to that finish line, like in the video. So though it's called, whatever works for you to get up to that distance of whether that's the 3.1 or to the 6.2 miles. But then, on our training plan specifically, we don't have at this point the intervals, so that's more speed training. So it does help build with endurance and such in a certain way. We don't have that built in at this point, mainly because this plan, again, being a very basic plan, designed for people, kind of starting out and trying to get to that endurance and then working on, the speed. We're more focused on those long runs and the distance and the bricks. So the bricks are, if you look on this, the middle of the road here, that is when you go on a long bike ride. And as we talked about, you get off your bike and right away. So just like you're in transition, you get off your bike, lock it if you're out on the lakefront path, put on your shoes, or just get off your bike if you're wearing your run shoes, and right away you go out on that run. And you're not doing as long of a run as like your long run day, but you go out for the run. And the idea here is to get your body used to moving from the bike to the run. And so it's very important. And I would start, we are already, July. I would start building that. If you're not doing this, start building this in 1 day a week. You don't have to do it more than that if you don't fit it into your schedule. But doing it at least 1 day a week, getting that brick workout in. Though it's perfectly great to, if you go for a swim and then you have the time and you want to go for a bike or whatever, it's great to practice that too. It's not really, it doesn't serve exactly the same purpose as, like, I would highly recommend these brick workouts. So kind of going back to interval trains, if you are up to the endurance of, whether it's the 5K or the 10K, then you might want to build in some kind of interval workouts one of the days a week. And that's where you're going to do, something like you might run, go 90 seconds at a, 80% effort. So 80% of your capacity to run or walk. And then you do a, 30-second recovery or something like that. Again, you can find a ton of interval workouts by Googling interval run workouts for triathlons. But I would say number one at this point with the time we have left is about building the endurance and then building in the speed, in the off season and things like that. So let me answer a few questions here. So there's a great question. So the question is about nutrition and what do you do with it for the bike? And I'll answer for the run too. So yes, so you're not going to want to swim with your nutrition. So let's hypothetically say we're using like goo packets or like shot blocks, which are like gummy bear things. You're not going to want to swim with them. So you would have them in transition next to your bike stuff, or already depending, so next to your stuff next to your bike stuff. And if you have a shirt or shorts with pockets, you can just stuff them into the pockets of your shirt or short. And then that would also be something to practice, is taking it out and, eating it while you're riding, remembering that one of the penalties you can get is for littering. So whatever you take on, put it back in that pocket. Your clothes will get gooey and that's fine. People do also tape them to their bike if that's what you want. If you don't have pockets or whatever reason, you can definitely tape them to their bike. The other option is that they do make bags that are called like top tube bags that go around the top bar of your bike, and they have a zipper and you can put them in there. So then you just unzip and do it. So a top tube bag would be the other option. But again, whatever option you choose, make sure you practice it. But those would be the three options: in your shirt, taped to your bike, or in a top tube bag. Let's see. And then as far as a great question about Body Glide, when do you use it? And that's going to kind of be up to you and your, how helpful you find it. I mean, if you historically not had a lot of like chafing issues, or you run and no big deal, then obviously don't use it. If you do, then yes, you would want to put it on before the run, if that's where you're using it for, because by the time you've gotten to the run, after the water of the bike and then water of the swim and then the sweat of the bike, it's going to be gone. So yeah, you would just slap it on wherever it is as you're running out, as you're in transition. So great questions though. Those are great. All right. So, yep, there's that. Okay. So much else to say on the run. So if you have any run specific questions, pop them in the chats. So what I've found is about now we're starting to get a lot of questions about, how's the day work, timing and such. Do not take any of the numbers here as like the final numbers. These are from the past year. So basically, if you're doing the international, if you look at the big, the timing on the right, so the timing up here on the left, the small box, that's the super sprint. So the super sprint goes after the kids triathlon at Foster Beach. So you have to be out of transition by 9:45 a.m. So you can, say, for example, you have a child doing the kids try, you can go into transition at 5:30 when they're there, and it closes at 6:45. But then the kids try is going to go, and then it will reopen at 9 a.m. and you'll have 45 minutes to put your stuff down in transition, and then transition will close at 9:45. So that's for Saturday's race. For Sunday's race, transition will open at 4 a.m. for absolutely the international distance. But if you're doing the sprint and you are there for whatever reason, you can go in at that time. It closes at 5:45 and then the race starts at 6 a.m. The transition then opens again at 6:30 for the sprints, and then closes again at 8 a.m. So all of these times are to make sure the flow of athletes. Nobody can be in transition when the race has started, unless you're coming through as an athlete. So that's why it closes and then the race starts. It's also why there is a time that you're going to have to wait, because there are, so many waves and such, and you can't be in transition. So that's, so closes at 8 a.m. and then the sprint starts, right around 8 a.m. They do have times around athletes entering the water, exiting the water, but I'm going to reiterate that, we had a long discussion last year with the head official, and basically what he said to me is he cannot recall in the years he's been doing this, if an athlete was progressing forward in whatever, in some way, then they are not, they're not pulling you out of the water. But they have to put time frames on it, and but even past that, they do not. If you are moving forward, they are going to be right there with you, getting you to the finish line. Let's see. I think this was a big question last year, so I just put this here to show everybody. Parking. If you know you're going to park, these are the garages you're going to park in. Again, we'll talk way more about this on race day, the race day prep one, but I do think you can buy discounted parking passes at this point for these lots. And it's a really easy, you're going to come up and you'll be like right at Lakeshore Drive to get into transition. Now, at the last clinic and at the course talk, we'll talk about if you are coming for the sprint, because the early transition, you can enter right off of Monroe. When the transition reopens at 6:30, you're gonna have to enter off of Randolph. But again, it'll be super marked, and we'll talk about that more as it gets closer. But just kind of want to give people an idea so you can start planning in your head. If you are staying at the Hilton Hotel, it's right down on Michigan Avenue, so easy walk right over there. So I do. Okay. So this is an example of and I do just want to put this out there. This has changed in so many different ways every single year. I have no pull as to when the first timers go. And over the last 8 years, there's been multiple different thoughts and how it goes. This is the first year that this triathlon is being run by a new Super Tri, which is a really exciting for a lot of reasons. But I don't know where they're going to put the first timers. But I wanted to show this so you can see kind of how the timing works, and how they're split up. So I do believe this was last year's. And like I said, you're going to at first look at this and be like, whoa, why do I have to an hour and a half? That's going to be a long time. I promise it goes fast. But if and like I said, we're not going to know until like 2 weeks before how the divisions are broken up. But if so you can certainly, if you feel comfortable at this point, and for you being in the actual first timers wave, you can transfer into one of the age group ones if you want. But I can say, I can't promise they're not going to all of a sudden then this year move the first timers first or whatever. But I do want to just throw this out there, so that it's not a surprise if we are wave 19 and 20 or whatever it is. And the idea is that to kind of put the first timers in a place where you're not going to have thousands of people swimming over top of you who've maybe done the Chicago Triathlon 15 times, or whatever it is. So putting you in a comfortable place. So like with the international, there's going to be a break between, the international, and then when the first, wave of the sprint starts, so that, you have more room and things like that. But just kind of wanted to show, this shows what color, that you'll have a swim cap, like gray or red or yellow. But yeah, just kind of wanted to show that from last year. So, and great, the question that popped up is a great question that's about phones. So as we talked about, no electronic devices in the sense you can't listen to them, and you can't text somebody or whatnot, but you can have them on you. They just have to be in a pocket out of view or in a bag out of view. So yes, if your running belt has a pocket, you can put it in there. You can put it in your back shirt pocket though. I know for me, my shirt, for whatever reason, always like bounces up and down. I find it very annoying, but yes, you can 100% have your phone with you. Obviously don't want to swim with it, but on the bike run, totally fine. Just don't use it. And then, yeah, that's no big deal at all. If you don't want your phone, then either, as we've talked about, there will be, you can either leave it in transition, leave it with somebody else, or there is the finish line bags that get sent down to finish line. Again, though, you kind of have to just weigh how comfortable you are with putting it in there. But we will talk more about that on race day, about bags and packet pickup and stuff like that. So, all right, so that's the run. I always have more, but that's really it. So yeah, I hope everybody is having a good time training. I hope people are thinking about getting into Lake Michigan. It's getting warm. I know I've seen some people out there already. But yeah, we're just over what, like I don't even know, it's 6 weeks or so until the triathlon. So I hope you're enjoying the process, because that's what it's all about, is enjoying the training. And the race is just kind of the icing on the cake. So as always, if you have any questions, I will pop my email into the chat right now. And let's see. So answer this last question. Let's see. So it says, so the question is about changing your wave, and will they see that they change it? So my understanding, and to totally be totally transparent, I have not been into the new registration system, but my understanding is that if you sign in, you can maybe change it within there. The other way to do it is, and I'm just trying to pull up the email address right now, is you can email them directly. Hold on, I should have had this, sorry. So if you're interested in what the email address is, stay on. If not, then we'll see everybody on the 17th. But I'm sorry, just trying to, there is a email that they will answer all of your questions about, let's see. You know what, I will pop it into the Facebook group because I can't find it right now. But I will pop in, if you have questions about moving your wave or can't do it online, you can email them and they will do it. If you don't get a response, email me and I will connect you with the right people. And we will go from there. So, all right, well, I'm excited. I hope you're excited, and we'll see everybody in a couple of weeks.